Ever wondered if your advertising dollar is really working for you? If your ad would have been here, you and more than 4 million people would be listening to it right now. Contact ads at xzoneradiotv.com.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
In the heart of the night, where the shadows play, on the X Zone we gather, come what may, with Rob McConnell guiding us through the dark, searching for truth hidden, igniting the spark. Whispers of spirits, both gentle and bold, tales of the ancients in the stories retold, from haunted old houses to the echoing halls, we seek the unknown where mystery calls. On the X-Zone Radio, where the truth finds a way through the stories of ghosts that wander and sway, inviting the seekers, the wise and the brave. Join us each episode, let the curious say.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, and for the next 2 hours, I'm your host and your guide, as together we will cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction, and fiction, well, 9 times out of 10 is reality. And we come to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. until midnight, right here on the CanCom Broadcast Network and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ AM, right here in St. Catharines. And they stream us at classic1220.ca. My guest this hour is Gail Rubin. She's the author of A Good Goodbye, Funeral Planning for Those Who Don't Plan to Die, Kicking the Bucket List, 100 Downsizing and Organizing Things to Do Before You Die, and Hail and Farewell, Cremation Ceremonies, Templates, and Tips, and the Before I Die Festival in a Box. Beautiful subject, isn't it, gang? Well, you know, our life is so funny because the moment we are conceived is the moment we start to die.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Gail, welcome back to the X Zone. How have you been?
Oh, great. Great to be with you, Rob. I've been busy with another book. You didn't mention my latest book, which is 98.6 Mortality Movies to See Before You Die.
You know, I was going to mention that. I got spun off over here. Now, our guest has also got a brand new book out, X Zone Nation. The Before I Die Festival in a Box, and then her latest book is 98.6 Mortality Movies to See Before You Die. Why 98.6?
Well, you know, I didn't want to do 100. Everybody says 100 or 101. And 98.6 is normal, quote unquote, body temperature when you're alive.
Right.
And I actually wrote about 142 movies and TV shows. And there is a 0.6 chapter where I write about films that I don't consider mortality movies, but they have instructional scenes, such as, you know, the ash scattering scene in The Big Lebowski.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's like a 0.6. Or the funeral in 4 Weddings and a Funeral, or the chaos in the dining room with Grandma's cremated remains on the mantle from Meet the Fockers.
Oh, that was a good one. I like that. Yeah. Now, Gail, what inspired you to become known as the Doyen of Death?
Well, I actually started my career in television, and I became a public relations professional. And when I got married in 2000, I had a very creative Jewish Western wedding with my husband, Dave. And I was inspired to write a book about creative life cycle events and call it Matchings, Hatchings, and Dispatchings. And I got to do a monthly column feature in our local newspaper, and it was the stories about the dispatchings, the deaths, that got the most reader response. So there's already plenty of creative wedding planning books, but 16 years ago, there was not much about creative funeral planning. So as a event planner, I decided to focus on funerals, and that changed the course of my career.
How did your personal experiences shape your work in death education?
Oh boy, these last few years have been very personally powerful in terms of the benefits of planning ahead. In fact, this very day that we are talking is the 3rd anniversary of my husband Dave's death. He went in for a low-risk surgery, and medical complications set in: heart attack, sepsis, kidney failure.
Geez.
And within 3 weeks, he was dead. And we had planned ahead for our funerals. We got a financial windfall a year or so before. So we went and took my advice and pre-planned and prepaid for our funerals. And I am so glad we did, because when I was walking into the funeral home with my brother-in-law, Dave's brother, I said, I don't know how people who haven't planned ahead do this. It was hard enough having already made the plans and those decisions and paid for it. But it makes a very tough time so much easier to deal with.
All right, for listeners new to your work at agoodgoodbye.com, what is your mission?
I want to get people talking about our 100% mortality rate well before the Grim Reaper is showing up at your door. Before anybody's sick or dying, it's easier to laugh about death. And I find humor is a great way of breaking the ice to talk about these things. I was one of the first people in North America to hold a death cafe, which comes to us from the United Kingdom. That's an opportunity for people to get together, have a little coffee or tea, some cake or cookies, and talk about what's on your mind about mortality issues. It originated in the United Kingdom in 2011, and I held my Death Cafe first one in September of 2012.
Why do you think so many people avoid talking about death?
Well, they're afraid of it. There's suspicion that, if I talk about it, it's going to happen sooner rather than later. And, tomorrow is not guaranteed.
That's true.
Whether you talk about it or not, it's going to happen. And it's better to talk about it. And that's why I use humor very often to get people over that hesitancy. And I have found movies and TV shows are really great conversation starters.
How has society's view of death changed over the past decade, in your opinion?
Well, I think it's starting to become more acceptable to talk about it. Could be because the baby boomers are turning into the silver tsunami that's about to crash on the shore of mortality. But also there's a rising number of people deciding to be death doulas, usually women, who will help people plan for the end of life, either working with a person who knows they're dying or their families, and just helping to educate people about the whole dying process. Now, it's interesting. I consider myself a death educator. I don't particularly want to be with people when they're dying. But by reaching them well before death, it enables me to be funny, to use the films and TV shows to talk about topics. And the whole thing about films and TV is it's more memorable. It sticks in people's brains better. So by combining information with entertainment, it's a very powerful combination to educate people and get them to take action to plan ahead.
In your opinion, why is it important to lighten up the conversations about death?
Well, because it does make it easier to talk about it. But you have to do it carefully, because if people are at death's door, if death is already in the vicinity, it's very hard to be humorous. And so you have to walk a fine line in terms of lightening the conversation.
And before we go to the break, what are some of the biggest myths about people and about funerals and the end of life planning?
Oh boy, there's so many of them. Well, one is that to pre-plan a funeral is not going to make it happen, but it will also educate your loved ones about what you would want.
Right.
Which is the big question that comes up when somebody dies. What would they have wanted? But when you've already worked out and communicated your wishes, that helps a lot. Unfortunately, there are a lot of family members, when you try and bring up the topic, they're like, oh, you're not dying anytime soon. We don't have to talk about this. And they'll put it off. So you want to be able to use humor, I think, is a really good way of breaking down that kind of, oh, don't be morbid. And it's like, I'm not being morbid. I'm being practical. Yeah.
Exonation, our guest this hour is Gail Rubin, and her website is agoodgoodbye.com. And Gail and I will be back on the other side of this break as the Exxon continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. You're listening to us on the CanCon Broadcast Network and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ AM 1220 in St. Catharines and the surrounding areas. And they stream us as well, not only live on air, but at classic1220.ca. Don't go away. Whatever you do, don't die. Well, not yet. It's all going to happen, but stick around for the rest of the show.
Igniting the spark, whispers of spirits, both gentle and bold. Tales of the ancients in the stories retold. From haunted old houses to the echoing halls, we seek the unknown where mystery calls. On the Exo Radio, where the truth finds a way through the stories of ghosts that wander and sway, inviting the seekers, the wise and the brave. Late night signals whisper through the sky, stories of the unknown drifting by. From shadows deep to stars above, the truth and mystery, what we dream of. From a humble start on AM air, a voice in the night reaching everywhere. St. Catharines heard that distant tone. Rob McConnell's voice, the X-Zone. Through the years, through the questions and the trials. Now we're back on 12:20 a.m. Classic sound, it begins again. CFAJ, your hometown radio, where the truth and the strange still flow. From Ontario skies to the great unknown, with Rob McConnell on the X-Zone.
Gail Rubin is my guest this hour, X-Zone, goodgoodbye.com. And Gail, what are some of the different cultures that deal with death differently, and what can we learn from the different cultures?
Well, let's start with Mexico and Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos. I actually got to go to Mexico for Day of the Dead, which is like right after Halloween. And they celebrate death and life. It's a huge celebration where people go to the graveyard and take food and candles and flowers and pictures, and they'll spend the entire night hanging out at these graves. Can you imagine people in North America doing this?
Yeah, I can, as a matter of fact. And in this show, we talk to them all the time.
Well, and just recently, the tomb sweeping festival in Japan happens. And so people will go and clean the headstones, take food, have picnics, and remember their loved ones. So, and that people used to go have picnics in cemeteries here in North America. There were actually people doing that in the Victorian era, but that's not done so much anymore. The kind of death avoidance really plays into that.
You see, my culture and my ancestry is Irish. And when somebody passes, we celebrate their life.
Yes, the Irish wake.
Yep, that's right. And do you know what the difference between an Irish wake and an Irish wedding is?
What?
One less drunk. Yeah, no, but I think it's a wonderful way to celebrate one's life, and I did that with my mom's passing, and when she passed away during COVID, but we couldn't get down and actually she was cremated, and after COVID, and sometime we went down and we interned her in the family plot. And we celebrated my mother's life, and people were laughing in the church. They were smiling and they were nodding their head, and I remember other relatives that passed away, and my God, it's so depressing. I think that when we look at a person's life and we celebrate their life, we each take something away with us that will mean something to us, and we'll say, yeah, I remember when Lottie did that. Oh, she was a card, and this kind of thing. So I fully appreciate my Irish heritage when it comes to dying, and of course I also admire my Irish heritage for Guinness and a few other things too. Talk about spirits, but I think that more people should celebrate, and like in Japan, when you were saying that they were cleaning off the headstones and doing this, doing that, and it makes a lot of sense that it's going to happen to each and every one of us.
Well, and I've had a very interesting year this past year. So in the previous section, I mentioned my brother-in-law.
Yes.
He died unexpectedly.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
March of last year. And he was a artist and an art professor. And he did a whole series about Route 66. And of course, I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Route 66 goes right through here. And in his will, he said he wanted to be cremated and have some of his ashes put in the cemetery where his parents and brother are buried, and then have the rest scattered along Route 66. And I have taken that mission on, and I have done several trips in Arizona.
My goodness.
I was in Chicago, where Route 66 starts, and I was in California, where Route 66 ends in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
And I just did a trip from Albuquerque to just east of Tulsa. There's a roadside attraction called the Blue Whale of Catoosa. And I went with a friend of mine. And so we stopped at all these places. I scattered his ashes. I did videos in each spot. I took lots of pictures. And it was such a gift for him to say, this is what I want done. Number one, just so I had some idea, because really I'm the only one left of that family to carry out his wishes. And then getting me out there to see things and look at buildings and cars and just crazy stuff like the world's largest flip-flop. And it was wonderful. And I'm still doing it. I still have some of his cremated remains, and I certainly haven't covered the entirety of Route 66. But what a gift that was for him to let me know this is what he wanted done.
In your business, I have to ask you this question. What was the transition from television to what you're doing now like?
With the movies?
Yeah.
So it started actually with the Death Cafe conversations. And also my presentations, I had a license to use film clips in my talks.
Right.
And in on New Year's, over a year ago, I decided I'm going to show a movie on New Year's Eve in my living room. I showed a Marx Brothers movie, and people really enjoyed it. And I was like, you know what? I think I'll start showing, these movies that I consider mortality movies that have lessons that we can learn and apply to our mortality.
Now, how can a Marx Brother movie do that?
Well, not the Marx Brothers,
okay.
But I just realized, hey, I can show movies in my living room.
Okay.
Because I had a big screen and a projector,
Right.
and so that's when I really started pulling a list together in earnest. I mean, I'd been building one for years since I've been using them in my talks, but then I got really serious about creating discussion guides to go with each film and to put them into different categories. So I've got chapters on movies about funerals and funeral directors, medical treatment and end-of-life issues, grief and growth, mortality and living fully, afterlife visions. That's such a rich category. There's so many cool films that ponder what happens after this physical lifetime. Animated films, documentaries, hard to categorize films, and then the TV shows. And my favorite TV show for laughing and learning about mortality is the 1975 Mary Tyler Moore show, Chuckles Bites the Dust episode.
Oh my gosh, Chuckles the Clown, yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
Because, Chuckles is chosen to head up a circus parade when it comes to town. He's dressed like his character, Peter Peanut, and a elephant decides he wants a snack. And that is how Chuckles bites the dust. Right, you're laughing. Of course. So everybody in the newsroom is laughing about how Chuckles died, except for Mary Richards. And she's very serious about putting this funeral together for Chuckles. And it's a very famous scene at the funeral. She starts laughing and she can't stop.
Yeah.
And then she gets very embarrassed about all of it. But the last scene in that episode, they all go back to her apartment for coffee, and they talk about what each of them might want. Mr. Grant says, I just want to be stood outside in the garbage with my hat on. Betty White says, I want to be cremated and have my ashes scattered on Robert Redford.
And what did Ted say?
Ted Baxter says, I'm not going. He plans to be frozen. Right.
Oh, my heavens. Yes, I can see what you mean. And it's so wonderful. What is your number one all-time favorite death movie?
Oh, it's so hard to identify just
All right,
one.
Give me three.
All right. Well, for Afterlife Visions, Defending Your Life.
Okay.
The Japanese film Departures is beautiful. And it did win an Oscar for Best Foreign Film in 2008, I believe that was. And for medical discussions, Wit. That was actually a Pulitzer Prize-winning play. And Emma Thompson plays a professor who has advanced ovarian cancer. And it's a really powerful film. And about starting medical conversations. Yeah.
I think you're doing something wonderful. I really do. And there are so many people that are facing so much uncertainty. There are so many people who are facing the part that any day soon they're going to get that phone call that one of their dearly departed is going to be gone. And all I can say is I think what you're doing is fantastic. And let's talk more about this on the other side of the break. Gail Rubin, thanks very much for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you.
Stand by. And Exonation, if you'd like to find out more about Gail, visit our website, agoodgoodbye.com. A good friend of mine in Montreal, Chuck Ackerman, once said, Rob, we're here for a good time, not for a long time, so may as well enjoy life and live it to the fullest each and every day. We'll be back. Whatever you do, don't go away.
Late night signals whisper through the sky, stories of the unknown drifting by, from shadows deep to stars above, the truth and mystery of what we dream.
Is now just silence filled with fear. The days grow longer, the nights grow cold. Questions unanswered, prayers unfold. A family waits through endless pain, hoping to hold her once again. If you know something, if you see the truth, you can be the
And as I do every show, Exonation, whether you have a major clue, whether you have an idea, whether you heard something that somebody said that might shed light on the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, who, because of the news cycle, has worked her way down to the bottom, which I find repulsive. Do me a favor. No matter where you're listening to the show, across Canada, throughout the United States, anywhere, if you have information, directly or indirectly, if you have an idea, if you have a suggestion, if you've got that gut feeling, do me a favor. Pick up the phone and call 1-800-CALL-FBI. Share the information with the good folks at the FBI, and maybe together we can bring some conclusion to the story of Nancy Guthrie, her disappearance. People just don't fall off the edge of the world, Exxon Nation. They just don't. So if you have any information, do the right thing. Pick up your phone and call 1-800-CALL-FBI today. Our guest this hour is Gail Rubin, agoodgoodbye.com. Gail, doing the job that you do, I'm sure that you have had some out-of-this-world requests by some people when it comes to the final farewell. I was wondering if you could share some of those with us.
Wow. Well, yes, I am a certified funeral celebrant. Mm-hmm. So I've had the opportunity to work with a number of different families celebrating the lives of their loved ones. In fact, I just recently did a memorial service, ash scattering up in the mountains of New Mexico, in the Jemez Mountains. It was a woman, she was actually younger than me, which always gives one pause when people younger than you are dying.
Yes.
But she was a wonderful woman, and her husband and two daughters wanted to do a kind of a picnic up in the mountains to celebrate her life. And they found a spot that was right next to a mountain stream. So we scattered some of her ashes in the stream and threw flowers in, and that was really quite lovely. But the funny thing was, I had put together a playlist on my Spotify of specific songs they had asked for. And we're up there in the mountains. I have like no cell phone service. And for some reason, the playlist wasn't coming up on my phone. But because I had played the songs, it was there that I could pull them up. I just had to like hold my phone way up in the air. And I swear this woman's spirit was there to help me download on, one or two bars on my phone, the songs that her family wanted played. So that was a really cosmic kind of occurrence at one of these celebrations of life.
That is truly beautiful. That is truly beautiful.
I felt her spirit.
I don't doubt that at all. A lot of people say, oh, come on, you don't feel spirits. There's no such thing. Once you're gone, you're gone. I beg to differ. Doing this show for 35 years, talking to the people that I've talked to, all these people cannot be wrong.
Yeah.
They cannot be wrong. And some of the stories are heart-touching. And there are mediums out there who, like you, perform a service where they contact the departed and allow the person on this side of the veil to have closure. Now,
I'm good friends with a psychic named Tammy Holmes.
Right.
And she's done 2 readings for me. The first one was after my husband died, and that was very comforting, that he was sending messages of love and that he was fine. And my parents died, my in-laws died. And the second reading, no, the first reading, I had an old boyfriend before I married Dave, who I stayed friends with, and he got COPD really bad and died on hospice. I was his hospice contact.
Right.
But he was very much an intellectual, and he did not believe in any kind of life after this physical lifetime.
Right.
When you're dead, you're done. And so I asked her, well, is Gary there? And Gary was there. And he was like, oh, I'm learning so much. He's probably hanging out with Albert Einstein. I don't know. But he was learning a lot, and he was going on very enthusiastic about it. And I said, Gary, you said you didn't believe in life after this life. He said, well, I was wrong.
Wow. Yeah, and the people that I've had on the show who have had near-death experiences, when they come back, they have a totally different outlook when it comes to dying.
Much more at peace. Yeah.
They're not afraid to die.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the majority of them don't want to come back when they're on the other side.
Right. No pain.
Yeah.
Lots of love and light. Yeah.
And I think that Mother Nature's been giving us the lesson that you just don't cease to exist. And like the example I like to use is when the caterpillar goes into the cocoon and goes through the metamorphosis and comes out a butterfly. I believe that when we pass on this side, we go through a metamorphosis and we come out on the other side.
A really good movie about this is Defending Your Life. It's a very funny film, but it starts out with a guy. It's his birthday. He gets a brand new BMW and a bunch of CDs. I mean, this was like 1991. And he's grooving to some of his new music. Yeah. And when he does a turn, the CDs slide off the seat. So what does he do? He tries to reach down and grab them and drifts over into the other lane, gets hit by a bus. And then he's off to Judgment City, where everybody goes. And they spend a few days there going through a trial and defending their life, looking at scenes from their own lives. And depending on how brave and courageous you are, how fully you're living your life, you either get to go back to Earth and try it again, or you get to move on to other parts of the universe.
Early in the part of September of last year, my wife and I went to a friend's daughter's wedding, and we had known the young lady for 15, 20 years, ever since she was a little girl. And it was the happiest I ever saw her. And then the end of January, her husband had a heart attack and died.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And the grief that I felt, I'd never felt grief like this before in my life. Knowing this young lady who had found her Prince Charming and fell in love, beautiful wedding. 5 months later, she's a widow. How can people prepare for something like this? Like starting off young people in their early 20s.
Yeah, it's especially devastating for when young people die. It just doesn't feel like, that's not the right order of things.
Would it be suggested that at the time when they do get married, that they seriously consider what if in the eventuality one dies, that they have this all planned out?
Well, yeah, especially when you're just starting out life together.
Yeah.
One can look at older couples and how very often it's the man who's dealing with the finances.
Yep.
But I would think, younger people should be able to work more in tandem, being informed about, that part of your life.
Right.
Very important. And yeah, talk about, okay, we're not going to die anytime soon, but if something happened,
Be prepared.
If you get hit by a bus, right?
Yeah.
What would you want? And I did create a game called the Newly Dead Game.
We've got to take a break, so please stand by. One thing that we've instilled in our children, life insurance.
Yes.
Start off when you're young. It gives you something, God forbid, in case something happens, that those you love are taken care of to a certain extent. And after the first time you were on the show, I contacted each one of our kids and said, you have to get things ready just in case something happens. And I sent them a link to your show that you did with us.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Well, you're a good lady. I appreciate everything that you do. So please stand by. We'll be back as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, my very special guest, a good friend of the X Zone, Gail Rubin. And her website is agoodgoodbye.com. This is the X Zone. We're coming to you on the CanCom Broadcast Network. And we're broadcast live on radio here in the Niagara area and the upper states of New York and Pennsylvania by our good friends at your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, who stream us also at classic1220.ca. Don't go away.
Do the right thing, pick up the phone. No one deserves to be alone. $1 million won't replace the love that lives in Nancy's place. Her family's breaking every day, still believing, still they pray. You hold the key, don't look away.
Mr. President, when you close your eyes, do you hear the echoes? Do you hear the cries from the front lines, burning far away to the flags on coffins at the break of day? They believed every word you said. Now their voices linger with the dead. Was it truth or a grand disguise? Another deal wrapped up in lies. Do the shadows speak when the lights go out? Do you ever feel even 1 ounce of doubt? How do you sleep at night with the world on fire and no end in sight? How do you close your eyes when the truth gets buried and the innocent cry? How do you sleep when the cost is paid in human lives? Tell me, Mr. President, how do you sleep at night?
Welcome back, everyone. Speaking about President Trump, I was so proud of our king, Charles III, today as he addressed the joint session of Congress. He is a very, very, very politically correct leader. And he did things in such a way that he got the message across. And apparently there were 6 standing ovations. There were no boos. And I told that to my wife. I said, honey, there were 6 standing ovations and there were no boos. And she said, well, why would they be drinking in Congress anyway? I said, no, not booze. I said, booze. Anyway, very proud of our king, and I must say that President Trump and First Lady Melania, very gracious, and it was nice to see. And I believe that the king was able to mend some broken bridges, and we'll see in the future, but I know he did it his best, and I was very proud to say that he is my king. All right, I have a question to ask you, my friend, and I'm sure you've asked this before, and I'm sure that you've partaken in the rectification of this problem. How do you or how can families avoid conflict when one passes away?
Well, by having these conversations early, and by having information on hand, like for a death certificate, that can really help and, at least relieve some of the stress, having the information you need, which includes the person's full name, their place of birth, the mother's maiden name, their social security number, and something that doesn't go on the death certificate but is very important in our online age is passwords. How are you managing passwords? We have so many passwords. There are online, like one master password, and then everything else is within that account.
Right.
I do it old school. I have paper.
You too, huh?
Yeah. And just having a conversation so the person, the family, the loved ones know, at least have a sense of, would this person want to be cremated? Would they want to be buried? The cremation rate in both Canada and the United States is
skyrocketing.
It's like getting up to 80%.
But the last time you were on the show with me, you talked about a green funeral.
Yes.
Or a green burial, I believe.
There's actually two very interesting developments. Green burial, where the body is treated as naturally as possible, no embalming, could be wrapped in a shroud or in a wicker basket kind of casket or other biodegradable container, and put directly in the ground in specific burial grounds that encourage returning as naturally as possible to the earth. There's a new development, which is really taking off, called natural organic reduction, which is basically body composting, turning your body into rich soil that can then be used in forests or in your own garden if you wanted. There's grandma in the garden.
What are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm going to be spreading dad around the garden and, put a little bit over here, a little bit over. But weren't you also telling me, or was it somebody else, that there's this burial where you can actually have someone feed a tree?
Yes, there are these areas called Better Place forests.
Right.
And actually, in that case, it's putting cremated remains around a dedicated tree. So a family could buy, quote unquote, a tree.
Right.
And make that the final resting place for not just one person's cremated remains, but a number of them. And they have forests in the Northwest, the Northeast, the Midwest, the Southwest. They've got a bunch of them. Better Place forests.
But do the ashes actually serve any purpose?
They are not good fertilizer.
No, I didn't think they would be.
No, it's calcium carbonate in your bones.
Right, and all the nutrients would be burned out.
Yes, yeah. But it is, a final resting place for those cremated remains, and they're very beautiful places.
Are more and more people going to the same day, either body interment or same day cremation than before?
When you say same day, you mean like direct cremation?
Yeah, the person dies in the hospital or the old folks' home or whatever, and they're cremated right away.
That happens a lot.
Yes, sir.
It's like, well, they're dead. Let's ship them off and get them cremated. But people are also having home funerals where they sit with the body and they wash it and they talk to it and, prepare it for whatever comes next, whether it's burial or cremation.
I find that a little macabre. That to me does
Well,
not.
it's like an Irish wake.
Yeah, but you're drunk half the time.
Well, there is that. I'm not sure there's as much drinking going on.
You know, most Irishmen don't need to be embalmed because we're already pickled. You laugh. And it's very dangerous for an Irish person to be cremated. All that liquor, boom! You know, there goes another Irishman. You see, I can say that because I'm Irish.
Well, you know, there's also water cremation.
Water
which
cremation. I think you touched on that last time. Please,
I think so.
Yeah, please tell our listening audience about that.
So that's a more eco-friendly. It uses about a tenth of the energy that a flame-based cremation would use. The body is put into a tank that holds about 40 gallons of water.
Right.
Add alkaline chemicals and bring up the temperature. Depending on the system, it might also add pressure. But basically, the chemical and the warm temperature creates a
slurry.
Well, it basically dissolves the flesh and
Right.
leaves the bones. And the liquid becomes actually very rich fertilizer liquid. And in usually it goes down the drain, but in some places they will save the liquid and use it for fertilizer.
Oh yeah, we're going to spread the fertilizer of Dad all over the backyard, and then we're going to water it with Mom. Oh.
In fact, I'm going to the International Cemetery Cremation and Funeral Association convention tomorrow.
What is that like?
Oh, it's really interesting. I attend as a journalist, and I take my video camera and I'll interview exhibitors about, what's new and different in the industry. But it's like old home week. I've been doing this for 16 years and a lot of people know me. So it's just great to see all these people and catch up.
So do you tell jokes like three cadavers walked into a bar,
Well, I got one of my best lines at one of these conventions.
All right, this I got to hear.
Two old funeral directors that see each other, and one says, "Hey, it's good to see you." The other one says, "Good to be seen. Better than being viewed."
Oh, boom, boom. All right, I've got one for you. Two guys sitting at a bar. One guy says to the other guy, he says, my mother-in-law's a real angel. The other guy says, you're lucky, mine's still alive.
That's funny.
We've got about 2 minutes left. One of the topics...
Please check out 98.6 Mortality Movies to See Before You Die. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at my website. If you get it from my website, I can autograph it for you.
Ooh.
At agoodgoodbye.com. Yes. And I'm very excited about this whole idea of using movies to get conversations started.
I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant.
I'm hoping it changes the world and gets more conversations started.
Yeah, better watch it while you're alive, because once you're gone, you can't.
That's right. Well, I've been signing the books. Enjoy the movie of your life and plan ahead before the final credits at the end.
What are your final thoughts for the X-Zone Nation tonight?
Oh, truly enjoy your life. I love what you said earlier about, we're here for a good time, not for necessarily a long time. And, tell the people you love that you love them.
Yeah.
Take the pictures, go on those trips that you've been putting off. I'm sad to say on this anniversary of my husband's death that there were family members and friends that we somehow never got around to visiting.
I see.
And then I've gone and visited them since he died. So get out there and live life.
But he is there with you in spirit.
Yes.
Gail, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's always great to be with you.
And just keep the great work that you're doing. And if you hear any good jokes over the next couple of days, do me a favor, send me an email.
Okay, I will.
Take care, my dear friend.
You do.
Good night, Gail. Exonation, Gail Rubin has been our guest this hour. Her website, agoodgoodbye.com. I'll be back on the other side of this break as the X-Zone continues, as we continue talking about the weird, the strange, the bizarre, from UFOs to Bigfoot, from Bigfoot to ghost hauntings and things that go thump in the night. And I'm not talking about your brother-in-law who's coming home drunk again. I'm Rob McConnell. We'll be back as we continue here on the CanCom Broadcast Network. And, of course, our good friends at Classic 1220, CFAJ AM, who stream us at classic1220.ca.
Mr. President, when you close your eyes, do you hear the echoes? Do you hear the cries from the front lines, burning far away, to the flags on coffins at the break of day? They believed every word